good afternoon. We would be shortly starting our talk in this track, and the speaker would be Rohit Singhal, and the topic would be Let's Make Our Customers Happy.
So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who's joining today from different regions. Thank you for joining, and would like to thank Contest as well for providing me this opportunity to share my thoughts and few things that I did in the past. So today we'll be, talking about and discussing about some of the things that I did in the past and that were actually pain points for me and my team. And also we'll talk about the approaches that I took to mitigate them. Also, we will touch upon like how these approaches could save you time in your testing, and then eventually make your consumers or customers of your application happy, right? And just one ask, right? While we proceed, I would ask you to please put your name, location, or maybe workplace, right, in the chat box, just to get to know like from which part of the world people have joined us today. Okay, moving ahead. So a quick introduction about me. So I'm Rohit Singhal, and I've been in QA domain for last 7 years now. What I like is solving problems with code and then building few tools which could support me in doing the same. Also, one more thing that I truly believe in is that automation is not just about writing tests or features, right? But also looking at the bigger picture and then building tools or utilities which could then save time and efforts while you're testing or while you're developing or while you're doing any of the tasks, maybe unrelated to testing as well. Okay, so let's move to the next thing, which is sentiment analysis. And because we are all virtually, otherwise I could have asked like everyone to raise hands, people who know about what is sentiment analysis. But for now, I would assume like most of you know about it. But people who don't know about it, I have some definitions and some quick extract about it. So sentiment analysis, also known as opinion mining, it's a field within natural language processing. And what it helps you to is identify and extract opinions from a text or a sentence. A sentence can be anything. Like, for example, I say, oh, the audience is looking good today. It's a sentence, right? And then we would try to find out some opinion or some, extract different things from that particular sentence or text. So besides identifying the opinion, we can basically extract some attributes from that particular expression or text or a sentence. And those attributes that are there is one polarity, which is basically how is the sentence or the text. Is it a positive text sentence? Is it a negative one? Or if it's a neutral one? Quick example of it, say you guys are enjoying the conference, right? So somebody might say, oh, this conference is super nice. I really liked it. And I learned a lot. So that could be a positive opinion. Whereas someone could say, oh, I really enjoyed the conference, but there was difficulty in finding some of the details. That could be like a neutral opinion, but there could be some people as well which will say like, oh, the conference was not that great. I was expecting a lot of different things, but my expectations didn't meet, right? And then that would be like a negative opinion for that particular sentence or a statement. Then the other important thing is the subject. So the subject is basically the thing that is being talked about. So in previous examples, we talked about the conference. So Contest 2021 is our subject. And so I was working for an airline application. So you could imagine like the complexity it had, right? And then obviously the user base it was supporting, because it was one of the largest airlines in United States. So just imagine of the traffic that it was getting. Now for me as a tester, the biggest pain point was today we have a lot of mobile devices, be it Android and iOS, and then not just mobile devices, but you have different platforms, right? So for iOS, you have like iOS 14, 13, and so on, right? Similarly, for Android, you have API version 10, 11, 9, and 8.7. And for sure, all these versions are not deprecated. So people are using it. So just to give you a little context of what platforms or what devices we are talking about, right? So I gathered some of the data for iOS. So you see, these are the number of platforms that iOS has in terms of OS. So we have 14, which is the latest one. Then we have 13, we have 12, 11, and so on, right? And if you see the percentage of our consumers that are distributed across these platforms is even, it's not like something very low. So for example, for 14, we have around 58% of population which is using the latest version of iOS. But still we have 35% who is on the current -1 version, right? And then current -2 is again 4.5%. So it's not a less number, right? And if we talk about devices, you have like a lot of devices that are running, and then people are still using it. So this doesn't have iPhone 12 because that data is not yet published, but it has until I don't know, iPhone 6 or 7, yeah. So even you would see like iPad 5 and so on devices. So it's like, as a tester, it's not really easy to have coverage across all these bandwidths, right? Now this is just iOS, so let's even take a look at the numbers in Android. So in Android, again, you have the latest one is Android 11, which still Google hasn't provided numbers. But for the latest -1 version, which is Android 10, you could see like, oh, there are still a lot of people on that. And 9, which is the Pi version, still we have like 40%. These are the numbers from 2020, but still then there were like 40% of the population using that. And then again, the number goes down and down, right, where people are using that. And this is just the cumulative distribution. But if we talk about specific numbers of that particular API, so you could see on the right side, right? So on Pi, we have 31% usage, where consumers have upgraded their versions or on the new API version. Similarly, for Oreo, we have 21%. For Nougat, we still have like 13%. So basically, I was kind of working with these kind of things in mind, right? So because you would have a lot of consumers who are on different devices and using different versions. Now, as a tester, the problem is, obviously, I can't test on all configurations of APIs or operating systems and on multiple devices, right? I think, as far as I remember, we were having like 8 or 9 devices, including both Android and iOS. And then we were having like current versions, current -1 version, sometimes current -2 versions, right? And then we were testing on all those devices. The other thing was, this feature was broken on production, and then we didn't know about it since like last 3 days. I think that's the problem that everyone faces when they're testing it on web or mobile, or be it any platform, right? This happens every time, like something goes wrong on production and we didn't know about it. Maybe not just 3 days, maybe even 10 days or a month, we didn't know about it, but that happens. Actually, that brings me to a little story of why we were talking about sentiment analysis and why I did that. So, like I said, I was testing the airline application, and I still remember that day. It was a Thursday evening, and we had a release, and we actually changed a couple of things in that release. So a lot of new features going in, but everything went fine. Our automation was working. It was green. Things were looking good. And then we started our regular work on Friday. We didn't focus much because everything was working fine. And then we had a 2-day weekend, right? And as you know, like a lot of people travel over the weekend, or maybe pre-corona, people used to travel over the weekend, right? Friday, Saturday, super busy in the travel industry. So on Monday, while I was traveling to office, I was actually reading the feedback that the application was getting when it was released on Thursday. And then I saw like a lot of people were complaining about seat maps. They were saying like, we can't open seat map on Android. And just imagine of the frustration that your consumers were or will be going at that point in time when you want to change the seat or you want to look at your seat while you are at the airport at the check-in, and then you're not able to see that, right? It's like a total mess. And this problem, I just got it from the feedback that I was reading. And then, like when I reached office on Monday morning, I notified this, and then we debugged and we figured out that it was a stupid mistake in the release branch. The JavaScript version got updated, but this was like a quick feedback to the team and to the testing that we're doing, that we are doing something wrong and we are not taking something into consideration, right? So then I thought, okay, let's take a look, and then let's bring automation here, because every time I can't read just manual feedback, feedback manually. So let's bring in some automation there. So before going into the automation part, or the approach that I took, let me give you a quick intro about uh, what is consumer feedback and how important or how useful it can be. And also, let's try to relate the sentiment analysis bit that we went through earlier. So let's look at some of the customer feedbacks, and then also a few sources from where you can collect that. So I'm pretty sure you all have seen those kind of things that appear on your mobile applications and sometimes on web as well, right? Where it says, oh, rate our app if you're happy about it, or send feedback, or write whatever you feel like, right? And sometimes the companies are super smart as well. They might offer you like a 10% discount if you give like 5 stars to them or write a good feedback. So this is also a way, companies or big organizations are asking you for your feedback. And I'm pretty sure you might all have this in your applications as well. So this pop-up, or this kind of method is really important. And as a tester, or as testers, right, we could really use something which is coming as output from these kind of things that we do in the company, right? So let's take a look at examples of how I used the consumer feedback, and like which are the sources we have in the market, right? So I'm going to talk about an app. Basically, I work at eBay, so this is an eBay application ratings. So if you see on Play Store, we have 4.7 ratings with some like million reviews. And then again on App Store, we have 4.7 rating, and then you have some 1,000 reviews there as well. So, and these reviews are categorized into like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, be it stars or numbers. 5 is like the most positive or happy review, and then the number decreases and the feedback quality decreases. By quality, I mean like the opinion decreases. So 5 is like a positive opinion, like I said, so people are happy about that application, and then from 4, 3, 2, 1, the opinion actually shifts to the negative one. Like I said, feedback actually tells you a lot, and it gives you a lot of value as well in terms of what is going wrong with your application. I picked a few examples that we can all go through and see if actually it makes sense. So the first example, and these feedbacks are all the recent ones. So this first example actually talks about one of the things that was there, which is basically the shipping service, which is called First Class, which was there in the mobile app, let's say before we had a upgrade or before we had a release. And then after that, it was no more, and the user complained about it. And for him, currently he has to go to desktop, do some stuff, and then see the same thing on mobile. So like you read in the feedback, it's very annoying. Then the next feedback you see, again, as you can see, it's pretty recent. It says like, after this version upgrade, I can't check my order details, which is like really important, and it's not working for him. And not just for him or her, but if you see, it has upvotes, which is like this 364. So basically it tells you like, okay, this is not just one person, but maybe multiple users having the same problem. And also users are smart, so they try like uninstalling, installing, deleting cache, deleting your app data and stuff like that, just to make things work for them, right? So again, having the same problem for a user where he's not able to bid an amount or review his bid amount. And also he or she tells us like, okay, there's a pound symbol missing in the currency when he's inputting the number. Again, like if you see, he or she mentions like uninstalling, reinstalling doesn't help, deleting cache doesn't help, right? He or she is using Samsung S7, and on tablet it's working fine. So the user says it's not an account issue, so it's really an app issue. But from reading like these 3 reviews, maybe you could get an idea like which part of your application or which particular feature of your application is not working fine, right? And sometimes you see people really put in like exact details, like think of like a bug that you put, right? And maybe sometimes you get exact details that you want to put, like where the issue is. Some more examples I picked up. So um, users are really smart, and sometimes they're sarcastic as well and funny too. So in this feedback, actually in this feedback, the feedback part of the application is not working, and the user says like, tried emptying the cache, even stopped the app, rebooted my phone, done a rain dance, chanted a magic spell, but nothing works. So like you see, so we got a feedback. That feedback part of the application is not working. Again, like 19 upvotes, so I assume a lot of other consumers are facing the same problem. One more problem, which is about the notifications, that the notifications are not working in an expected manner. And again, a lot of upvotes, which tells you, okay, something wrong with the app. Other people are also facing, so it's not just one user facing the problem in the production, but other people facing the problem as well. Like I said, so this is one part of the feedback that you can use. So you could see what problems your consumers are facing and then fix it, or maybe take into consideration that you will fix it later. But like I said, our consumers are smart. They really expect a lot of things from our applications, and sometimes they tell you like what features they need in your application as well, right? So this is again a feedback, which is not a complaint maybe, but a feature request that the consumer is looking for. So they want a specific feature from your app, which is basically stop automatic relisting, and then he's explaining a bit as well, like what would be the benefit of it, right? Similarly, another feature request where it's a simple feature, but maybe while developing we might not have thought about it. It's a user experience feature where they would like to have so that they can easily browse some of the things in the app, but maybe while developing, or while that feature is in development state, we never thought about it. But again, consumers are smart, so they can tell you what feature they are looking for. Some more feature requests that are coming in. This is pretty this particular example. It's a pretty nice feature request. It talks about like while writing messages, we have a limited set of characters, and then what it does is it basically clears everything, and then you have to start again. So if you really read it, it actually tells you like what is the problem, what are the steps to replicate, and then you are there. You could create a feature request or a bug, right? So it depends on the development team, or the project managers, or the business analyst, or how your upper management takes it. Then another feature request that I see a lot in our eBay application is why there's no edit profile section, and you consumers have to go to the desktop version to do it. So and these feature requests are just not like it's coming like one in like a month or 2 months, right? These are some things which comes in regularly. So whenever you make a release or a new feature, these things will appear in your Play Store reviews, or maybe whichever way you are consuming or getting the feedback from your users. But these are the feedbacks that are always coming in. Now, like I said, so let's try to relate our sentiment analysis with the feedback that we are getting. So this feedback, like I said, it can be a positive one, which is obviously people are happy with your application. It could be a neutral one, where for me, neutral is something where people are giving you feature requests. And then a negative one where they're actually putting complaints or issues that they're facing with their application, right? So now if we relate both of these approaches, like the sentiment analysis with the feedback collection that we have, can we do something automated there, right? You won't have time always to go and read like, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 comments, right, coming in daily. But maybe let's try some automated approach. Or maybe if there are a couple of tools available online, right? So I'm not saying there are no tools. There are tools. There are very low open source tools though, but there are multiple tools that have now started doing such things as well, where they give you like a proper analysis, right? So what I did, and this is like, I think I started like 2-3 years back doing that. So my automated approach at that point in time was looking something like this. So what I was doing is I picked up Google Play Store in the beginning, because that I found it to be much more active for the app that we were building, and we were getting a lot of feedback there from from our consumers. So what I did was, okay, the first part of building an automation or doing some or building an utility right around it was to fetch that reviews or to collect that reviews, right? So imagine you collect reviews daily after you make a release, or maybe you have a pipeline which collect reviews like every month or weeks, or depending upon how you configure it, right? Then the next part is, from that feedback that you collected, the next part is how you separate out that feedback. Because with this utility, what my idea was to only collect negative and neutral. Negative ones to get uh, a feel of what things are going wrong, and the neutral one is to propose the features that our business might consider, or the project managers might consider. So the next step was separating out that feedback. And this is the part where sentiment analysis really plays an important role. So with the help of sentiment analysis, you can actually figure out which ones are negative and neutral, uh, and then you can use them to basically generate the meaningful reports. You can do it daily, like I said, or weekly, or monthly, or however you want to configure. So for me, I configured it daily, and like with every release, we were checking or monitoring the feedbacks and the reports for next 5 to 7 days, so that we get a feel of how this release went. And then everything was like running over Jenkins at that point in time. So it was like, you don't have to do anything. The job will run uh, every day, and then it will collect the feedback for that particular day, generate a meaningful report, and then we'll put it to you, and then you can review it, showcase it to your project managers. Our PMs and the business analysts were really important as well, looking into that problem and the reports, and they were happy to figure out the feature request, and we were happy to figure out the bugs that or the issues that we were getting. So this is basically how I related sentiment analysis with the consumer feedback. But this is just the one problem that I had. But what is the other problem that I had, and how we solved it at that point in time? So for going to the other problem, let me talk about another really important topic, which is basically tracking or analytics, right? And like I said, it's a virtual conference, so I would imagine most of you know about it, but for some who don't know about it, I have a small gist of what tracking is or analytics is. So analytics is basically a collection, reporting, and analysis of your application's data. And the focus of analytics is basically measuring or identifying your performance with the goals that you had, and to determine if you had a success or a failure. Because if you meet your goals, then it's a success for the company, and then if you don't meet your goals, then obviously it's a problem, right? And also, it's just not like provide you that data and analysis, but also it sometimes drives how the user experience should be. So basically it in terms provides value, so that you can provide value to your users in terms of the user experience or the features that they're asking for. Now the other important thing is, like, how do we basically, or what do we use analytics for, or where do we use analytics for, how do we basically see it, or how can I see it, right? So like I said, so the important question is, how do we monitor or track our tracking or analytics? So I'm pretty sure in all of your companies or organizations, right, you might have seen some of these charts, or maybe in general, right, you might have seen some of these charts where you're checking like some of the goals that your application should be built for meet, right? For example, it's like number of active sessions you have on your application, number of users that are coming to your applications daily, weekly, how are they coming, from which platforms are they coming? For example, if you're running a campaign or say Instagram or Facebook, are they coming from that particular campaign or that is running on Instagram or Facebook, or things like that, right? And then also you might have seen something like, say, a page view, like how many page views are there for different pages that we have. For example, working in an e-commerce, you want to check like how many cart additions were there, how many checkouts were there daily, which parts of your uh, applications are used by like different user based in like different geographical locations, and a lot of things. So these are just few examples, but you could monitor a lot of things. uh, just to give you like why this analytics is important, like I said earlier, it provides you like it provides business the value that they're looking for, and also the user experience, if you really need to do something on user experience. So basically providing value in terms of both user experience and also in terms of what management is looking for. And while working on analytics, at least for me, I had some of the questions that were always appearing, right? And so I have worked with like startups. So, and while you work in startups, you have small features, and then you want to make them build. Uh, you want to make them grow like, super big. You want to build them like quickly. You want to turn off some features, turn on some features. It happens like rapid changes happening, right? And then the questions that we had always was like, first, I have always heard about is like, we don't see any numbers on how many times at least this page was viewed. Like, let's say a graph is not showing numbers or something like that, right? Then sometimes like, hey, this KPI graph or metric is not updating after the release. This is a pretty common question. Like, it happens a lot. Um, and then sometimes our project managers or business analysts or product teams, right, they want to figure out like, can we remove this particular feature if the traffic is low on this, let's say, a component or a page, right? And then also like, are our users actually using this feature, or should we remove it like completely if they're not using it? And these kind of questions could be basically answered with analytics, right? So that's why you would see a lot of places these days, they basically track everything. And you might have observed like they give you like personalized ads, personalized things, suggestions and stuff like that. These are actually coming from the analysis that they do with the analytics, because how you interact with the application or things you look for, things you search for, then they figure out, okay, what is this user looking for on our application, and based on that they will give you a lot of things. So the idea is basically, one, analytics is really important. The other is, as a tester, what can you do around it, right? Can you test analytics, or can you test those graphs that I showed you? Like, how is the data coming there? But actually, yes. So either you want to do it like in end-to-end testing, unit testing, and integration testing, that is your choice. But actually, yes, as a tester, you could test analytics. And if you really want to look into automation, you could actually automate that as well. So let's take a look at the example that I picked up. So it's again from a live application, and let's take a look at what they're tracking while we are playing with the application. So if you can see on that image, this is basically when you click on a login button of an application. So this is a live application, and when I clicked on the login button, I could see these events dropping in. And then if you look at the things that I highlighted, so the first one that is important is the page name. So I was on the login page, and the title of the page was like login and then log into that particular application. I just masked it to ABCD. The other important thing is, if you look at the other highlighting, which is C27, it says user login, and the state was non-logged in. So this is basically a key value pair where you see the keys, for example, the page name or the user login, and the value is non-logged in or logged into ABCD. So this is an event that went through while I clicked on the login page. And there are other key value pairs as well, which they're tracking. So this is just an example, right? Like, how things are tracked. Now talking about why is this important. So imagine of a situation where you have a mobile application, you have a mobile web and desktop web, which is pretty common these days. And as a tester, you want to test like if tracking is working fine on all those platforms, right? That is one problem that you have to validate that as a tester on all these platforms. The second problem that I could think of is, let's say you have 3 environments as well: staging, pre-prod, and production, and you want to test that tracking is fine on everything. So imagine of the complexity that it builds up, right? So like I said, so you could do it in end-to-end testing or integration testing or unit testing, but somewhere you have to test that analytics, right? So again, the problem for me at that point in time was we were not having any unit tests. So then I thought about, okay, because these graphs or these things are really important, because I was working in a startup. So how could I actually solve that problem? So before going to how I solved it, let's take a look at our contest website. So I actually went into the Hopin website and I checked like if they also track like what we do and what all things they track. So I figured out that, and here's an example. So when you go to like the events page of the Hop-in application that you're using for joining these sessions or the conference, you could see like they track your email that you're logged in with, they track your full name, and then they pass a URL as well in the string 3, right? And some tab ID and stuff like that. So I don't have idea about what these are. Maybe they are, they're mapped to something in the graph or charts they will be using to track. But like a quick example, when you click on events and you see like this is tracked. Again, one more thing I checked is when you basically when you join a stage or a session in a stage, right? Then you again see a same tracking event going, but this time you see like the values change. The keys are same, but the values got updated. So the URL actually changed. So this is one of the sessions. And then you see the string, which is the name of, I think, the page. Then you have again the name and the email ID that I was logged in. So like I said, everyone is tracking what you're doing, right? But as a tester, it's really important to actually test like if tracking is working fine in our applications or not. So like I said, what I did again is a very simple approach that I took, but that actually helped me a lot and my team and my company as well, just to track that, okay, tracking is working fine. And my approach looks pretty similar to what we did with like the consumer feedback. So what I did was at that time, we created some test cases and I used BDD, the behavioral driven design, which is basically quite a popular thing. And why I used it, because tracking as a test was really important for the product people. So as a business analyst or as a product manager, you would really want to check like what events are tracked, what values are tracked, right? So I preferred BDD because it was really helpful for everyone who has technical background or doesn't have technical background, because it's in plain English. Then I picked up only the tracking events that I want to look for. So for example, in the previous example, say you only want to look at, let's say string 2 and string 3, and let's say the tab ID. So these are just important key value pairs that you want to look at. So I picked up only those. And then you basically run the test on all environments to check if those particular events with those particular key value pairs are going fine or not. So you could run it on dev, you could run it on pre-production, production, whichever environment you want to. So this is the approach that I took. Now, because we had 35 minutes of talking, let me quickly show you some of the demos that we used to have and that I did in the past. So it's not like I'm saying you should use the same tools or same approaches that I used. It's just the thing that I did. Maybe you could build your own tool utility, use already existing paid tools, open source tools. But my whole idea is to basically bring into perspective that these things are really important in testing and as a tester, but also helps you overall in terms of improving the user experience, providing value to the team and to the company. So demo time. So this is basically how I was running my utility that I built. So here I was passing the package name. So this is the package name of my application. Then you pass in the date that you want to look for the feedbacks, and then you run the command. So it will open up the browser page. And this is just to show you like in a demo fashion that how things work. And then you get the reviews, and the reviews are added to the CSV. And then the next part is, like I said, is analyzing those reviews to figure out if those reviews are positive, neutral, and negative, and then getting only the negative and neutral ones. So you could see I'm printing something like it's a negative feedback, it's a positive feedback, negative, neutral, and so on and so forth for the feedback that we were getting. And then in the end, like I said, a fancy report, which is important for you as well as the product managers or the management in the company or anyone in the company, right? So, like I said, so this is basically the subject. Like we went through in the sentiment analysis, like what subject this feedback is talking about, and then the review, right? So this is all the negative feedback that we had. And then also just to bring more value to that particular feedback, I added a feature of showing like upvotes, because like if you're reading this report and you see something like 47, okay, this is something important, right? Let's take a look at it. Let's maybe test this feature. Let's maybe have a bug bash around this feature and figure out what is the problem, something like that, right? Or maybe if it's a feature request, let's make a story in our backlog and then we'll take a look at it later. So this is the first utility that I built and how it was generating the reports. And the second thing for analytics, like I said, it's really important. And for that, we were using the BDD scenarios, because like you can see here, it's simple to read and then for anyone to understand like what you're trying to do. So it's a feature where you are running a simple test, and we were building a travel magazine at that point in time, and you want to check like, okay, when you go to a particular page, is the page event view fire, and what are the key value pairs inside that. And then what I was doing in terms of the approach is basically I saved all of my expected events. So for example, the image that I showed you for Hopin, so imagine you saved all of that into a file, right? And then when you run your test, you basically compare what is the event that is going while the test is running versus the baseline that you already have saved. And then you basically map one-to-one with all the key value pairs, and then you figure out if something is wrong or some keys are not sent or some values are not as expected. So this is what we did. Then coming to the references, and so these are some of the references you can take a look at. So you can read more about sentiment analysis. You can read about how important data analytics is. So thanks to Anand Bagmar for a very nice blog about data analytics. You can read about it on his blog. And then if you want to play around with sentiment analysis or with the Play Store reviews, I have it on my GitHub. So you could play around that. Feel free to modify it or create pull requests if you have any changes or something. And yeah, like I said, it's really important to have all these things in place in your testing, I don't know, tools or buckets or regular daily testing. And then once you fix or improve these kind of things, your consumers will eventually be happy if you fix their feedbacks, if you improve the features that they're asking for, and if you improve the features by tracking all the things, and then eventually using that analytics and then improving the user experience and improving the user journey in your application, I'm pretty sure you will turn your consumers into a happy consumer, and they will love your app. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your time, and have a nice day ahead. So yeah, thanks.